I wasn't expecting this movie to spark so much drama, not only because it's technically James Gunn's first big project as head of DC, and there's potentially billions of dollars in the fate of one of the most legendary studios of all time relying on its success, and as if that wasn't enough, the Snyder stands just coming out of nowhere, straight up praying for this movie's downfall for who knows why, as if this fool did not have a crack at this whole universe himself and it in slow motion. I don't understand why this guy gets such a pass by the internet. Like, the internet backs him so hard all the time, and I don't really get it. He's great at what he does, but he also puts out a lot of caca after caca after caca, and people still are begging him to do stuff. I don't get it. For reals, name someone else who gets so many chances to redo his own shit and still ends up it up. I just really hate the whole Snyder Cut thing. You get a redo? Why do you get a redo? You had to crack at the first head. It baffles me. It baffles me. By the way, while we're on this, for all the shit Gal gets for this one line, remember who shot it, edited it, and left it in the movie? Twice.
Kal-El, no.
Anyway, as if that whole shitstorm wasn't enough, let's sprinkle in some uninformed woke bullshit from people who had not seen the movie yet, just to straight up spark some controversy and earn themselves some good old clickety clicks. So this created a cluster of fuckery before the movie even came out, where you're completely wrong if you liked it, and you're also completely wrong if you disliked it. Where if you like the movie, you're being called a shill. And if you don't like it, then you're just a straight up hater, anti-woke, bullshit, blah, 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 blah. I'm over here like, all this over a Superman movie? What the f*** is going on? Taking all that and putting it in some toilet paper and using it to wipe my flat ass with, I'm gonna set that aside. I'm gonna move that out the way. And I'm gonna tell you about Superman. I think it's worth watching. I think it's a ton of fun. I think it tries to do something fresh and original, and I think it's a great base for this new world James Gunn is trying to build for DC. And it very much has the James Gunn effect. So if you don't like James Gunn and his comedy, you're not gonna like this movie. If you enjoy his comedy, you're gonna enjoy this movie. It's as simple as that. Why? Because it's a James Gunn movie. I don't believe that you did not know that going in. I mean, it says it literally everywhere. So people bitching about this movie being too James Gunn, it's like, bro, you went into Burger King, ordered a Whopper, and then complained that it tasted too much like a Whopper. But I don't get it. I'm gonna go a little bit deeper in the story. I might touch upon some spoilers, so use this as your spoily spoils warning. The movie starts explaining with text basically Superman's origin and the place and status that he holds in this world. It really establishes that metahumans are a thing. People in this universe, regular people, know what metahumans are. They're kind of accustomed to them, you know? They're not going to get freaked out if you see someone floating in the air. And Superman's been flying around and saving people for a while now. And I enjoyed that choice. We kind of like speed run through the origin kinda, and it's also touched upon in other conversations. You get the bigger picture of what happened with his childhood and his origin story throughout the film with nuggets of dialogue. He basically inserts himself in a war between a little country and a big country and sides with the little country, and apparently that was the wrong move, and it sparks this whole thing, right? But that's not the point of the movie. The point of the movie is to show how he views people. Even though he's technically a god compared to normal humans, he doesn't see himself better than. He sees himself to better the human race in a way. Then the reveal of his parents happens, and then social media gets introduced. I think that's kind of like to make it feel modern in today. And it is an interesting thought of like how Superman cares about the perception of people that he's saving, because at the end of the day, that's kind of a human feeling. It's human nature to want to be liked, which is a bigger theme that takes place in this movie. There's also a little bit of nature versus nurture element to the film that I really liked. His nature is to come to Earth and like take over. That's what he was supposed to do. But he was raised not to. He was raised by humans and showed love and empathy and all these other things that really make you human. So as much as he's an alien, how much humanity does Superman have? I really like that element, and I found that to be an interesting one. But one criticism that I will agree with is that there is a little bit of a lot going on at the same time. No. You got the war, you got Superman's followers going down, and then you have Lex building basically a little universe, and then Lex's involvement in the war. And then you got Clark and Lois's relationship, Superman and Lois's relationship, Jimmy and his relationships, and then you got the Justice Gang and their whole deal. That's a lot that you have to kind of pay attention to. And I feel like some of those things took away of some of the more important things that might have needed a little bit more screen time or more shine put onto them. So I understand that argument, but it's not one that completely just destroys this movie and makes it unwatchable. That's too much. Come on. It's more of a like, I wish we could get a little bit more of like Lois and Clark hanging out. You know, there's one scene where they hang out, but what happens more? You know, this whole movie takes place over a span of a couple days. So I also understand that, but they're just nuggets of the world that I wish I could see a little bit more of. Speaking about nuggets, that doesn't work. Speaking about the cast and the characters, one of my big concerns going in was Superman himself, David Corensett. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, I greatly apologize. My concern about him was not his acting or whatsoever, because I saw him do different other things, but my thing was that he looked a little bit too much like Cavill. You know, he's a little bit too much of like, no, we can't have Henry Cavill because we have Henry Cavill at home kind of situation. So because he kind of has an air of Cavill, that kind of put him in a hole for me. Like, you have to do extra good to kind of earn your spot as a Superman per se. That's just the way my brain works. He had like a negative to climb out of. There was a pretty steep hill that he had to battle with, and he did. He eventually got out of my mental hole that I put for him for some reason, as if I'm anybody for him, but whatever. Yeah, I thought he did great. He's really cool. I've been on the record saying that Superman as a character is very boring. This Superman is a relatable Superman that made Superman the character not feel as boring. He comes in with a ton of charm, and he's not as serious as past Supermans come off to be. So eventually, David's performance really won me over. I think he's really, really cool. As Superman, I've never had a problem with him personally. I don't know him or anything, but he seems like a really cool representation of the DC as a whole. That's pretty much what Superman kind of has to be. Now, Lois, I expected her to be great. Mind you, I'd never seen her in anything before. I heard great things about Marvelous Miss Maisel, that she's fantastic in that. Never saw that. Never seen her in anything else. Just from the trailer alone, she looked very comfortable in that role. And just looking at her and thinking Lois, yes, it fits. Cha-ching, yes. She has some time to shine and do her thing to help out the cause, but it never becomes too much. It never gets in the way. She's not there to overshine Superman, as I felt past Lois's have done that. She stays in her Lois lane, and she does a very good job of that. The one character I'm still iffy on is Lex Luthor. I wasn't a fan of the Nicholas Hoult casting, not because of Nicholas Hoult, simply because I look at him and I don't see Luthor. I'm a man. I'm sorry, I'm very visual like that, right? That's just how I'm wired. I apologize. But it's nothing against Nicholas Hoult. I love that guy. He's dope. I just don't get Lex Luthor vibes from him. I get more Jimmy Olsen vibes, who, Skylar Gisondo did great as, and I liked how they changed Jimmy a little bit too. They always make him like annoying and like a pest. And this Jimmy's kind of cool, but it's like, you don't get why he's cool, but he's still kind of cool. But yeah, visually, I wasn't digging how Luthor was looking. I didn't buy him. He just looks too young. So he kind of looks like this bratty rich kid. And on top of that, in this film, I don't think he's written particularly great. He really just feels like an online troll with money who just hates Superman with a passion, but he has the money to do something about it. And Luthor, to me, should be like kind of super calm and collected to a point where it's scary. He knows how powerful he is, so you don't want to mess with. But towards the end, Holt's performance did eventually win me over. This also just kind of proves how great of an actor he is, because like the script for him isn't great, and he did the most he could and did a great job. I think I ended up believing the version that this Luthor is, but it just didn't leave me particularly excited about what's coming next. Hopefully this whole event changes him somehow, and he does become a more like resentful towards Superman, but like in a quiet, scary way. Hopefully these events do something for him moving forward. Now, all those years working for Disney definitely helped James Gunn learn one thing, and that is, you need something cute. Now, I'm a simple dog person. You put dog in movie, I'm going to love movie. That's it. I'm sorry. That's how my brain works. 80% of the reason why I love this movie is because of Krypto. He's a puppy. He's doing puppy shit. I loved it. I love any kind of dogs. I work with dogs, even if it's CGI slightly off looking dogs. Me like dogs. I apologize. If you're a cat person and you find this kind of unamusing, I don't know what to tell you. But the fact that he's untrained and he's a puppy and he's making a mess with not really trying to, and how they use his puppiness to destroy things, I really enjoyed and loved Krypto. The second I saw him in the trailer where he's like overly excited and jumping on Superman and hurting him, but not wanting to hurt him, but not knowing that he's hurting him, I was like, okay, I'm all for it. So for me, Krypto stole the show, but I'm biased because I love dogs. Now, another thing that James Gunn is very good at is shining a light on lesser known characters. For example, I did not know diddly squat about Mr. Terrific going into this movie, but best believe now I want to know more about Mr. Terrific. This is one of the things they could have spent more time on, explaining Mr. Terrific's who, why, where, why, and how, because that guy is cool. His voice is cool. Eddie Gaethje, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I don't think I am. His voice and his look and his powers are really cool. Every time he shows up on screen, you're just glued to see what he's doing. I thought he was great, but I was left wanting more about that character. So hopefully we get a TV show. I read something about him and Jimmy getting a spin-off TV show. I actually wouldn't be mad at that. So yeah, I feel like a lot of people are going to want more Mr. Terrific moving forward. Somebody else that people claim stole the show was also Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. Nathan Fillion's online aura is like a too cool for school kind of guy, and that's kind of what Guy Gardner is, but he thinks he's too cool for school, but it just doesn't really land. His performance was also very fun. I enjoyed that dynamic very well, very much. Maybe we would have gotten more Guy Gardner in that canceled Green Lantern show. Who knows? Maybe would have not. That was pre-Gunn, but who knows? Maybe we would have. But I also would like some more Guy Gardner in my life. And also Hawkgirl is just kind of there. Yeah, they just made her like a moody teenager who screeches when she attacks. She felt very unused, and this is again also something else that they could have shined a little bit more light on, was a little bit more on them three. There's a moment where Lois shows up to like recruit them, just an extra line from each of them kind of saying their deal a little bit, just to give us a little bit more insight to these characters, would have like done wonders in my opinion. Because while most people know who the hell Superman is and Lois, like how many of us that went to the theater truly know who Mr. Terrific is? I don't. I'd never heard of him before. To tell you the truth, the first time I wrote down Mr. Fantastic. Dyslexia at its finest. But more shine on them a little bit more, just like to get a little bit like where they come from and what's their deal, would have helped. I know that they're trying to establish this universe as like, yeah, there's metahumans running around and deal with it. Okay, cool, but we still would like to know a little bit more about these characters. And I really enjoyed the action of this movie. It is very video gamey in the sense that the moves that Superman does while he's fighting feel like moves you would do in a Superman game. Some moves I've seen in the Injustice game. He like spins around to get stuff off, or he's blowing shit or whatever. But I was also left wanting more from a fighting standpoint. He doesn't really get into the fighting that quickly. There's some fighting in the middle, and there's a lot of his fighting towards the end. But overall, when the movie ended, I felt like, ooh, I wanted a little bit more Superman fighting. Other people do more fighting, but this kind of felt like a taste of Superman fighting. And also, what I did like is that Superman gets jacked up in this movie. And I can also hear the argument of people saying, oh, he's weak or whatever. Well, you're choosing to see him as weak. I view it as him being put in situations where he becomes vulnerable, therefore they weaken him to do damage. That's how he gets messed up. There's always a reason for him as to how and why he got hurt. It's not like he's just walking around and get punched in the face and it hurts. Like, there's a reason for it, because there's kryptonite, or because Lex knows his every move, or because there's a geek squad that uses Ultraman to play Street Fighter versus Superman. Every way that he got hurt, there's a reason behind it. And I like that James Gunn took the time to explain that. A lot of people just say because I said so, and I don't like that. I was also reading people having problem with the CGI. I'm half blind, so I didn't really have much of a problem with it. I didn't see anything that stood out to me to be annoying. Like it's a maybe like the big gobbly monster, but it's a big gobbly CGI monster. Like we've seen it before. I enjoy how the movie looks. There's way more color than past movies. It just really pops on screen. It looks clearer. Thank God we're out of the so dark you can't see shit part of superhero movies. This just looks kind of blue. I like how he gets up close and personal with his shots. Maybe too close, that maybe that's why we got the Superman Birolo eyes, you know? So for as much as Zack Snyder loves slow-mos, James Gunn loves to move the camera around the action. And I like those shots. Those feel very dynamic and playful. You know, this whole film feels like it has more of a comic book feel to it than past Superman movies. It's way more cartoony, and I don't see that as a bad thing. Another thing, I read people and saw people really bitching about how he takes the time to save a squirrel. And that feels like something that you would see in the cartoon. And that's really what I like about this Superman, is that it feels cartoony. Everything that Superman does is based off his feelings and his thinkings and his moral and the way that he views life, not only for humans, but even if it's a squirrel. I mean, he didn't even want to kill the damn thing that he's fighting. So I feel like that not only provided some comedy, but also provided an insight as how Superman thinks. Just the whole tone of this movie, for me personally, felt more fun. Yes, there are tear-jerking moments that break up the fun, or there's some exposition, but eventually we come back to the fun. And again, it has James Gunn type of jokes and giggles and stuff happenings in the background, but it's all with the purpose of fun. And I hope that that is what James Gunn brings to the DC as a whole. It's fun. That's the purpose of the whole thing. That's the purpose of Superman. That's the purpose of superhero films, to be fun. Along the way, I think we forgot about that. And that's really why I trust him right now, because he's looking for the fun and trying to deliver us fun. How many times have I said fun? I feel like Gunn also respects the audience where other people's don't. Like, he doesn't insult us with explanation. Like I said, he might even under-explain a couple things. But he also does like this whole bit about the Justice Gang where they keep saying the Justice Gang. And that's funny because he knows we know that he knows that we know he knows. You know? He also does great with little things. Like giving Superman's ma an accent. A heavy, awesome accent. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but it gives Mrs. Kent so much more personality and so much more to play with. She could just say a little line here and there, and I was smiling because of that accent. And it's a choice that makes sense, that simply just adds more. You know, that choice doesn't take away from anything. There are other choices that were actually kind of surprising to me, like combining two characters into one. He took Ultraman and Bizarro and kind of meshed them into one. And to be fair, those characters are kind of similar, so why not combine them into something new and unexpected? So when the reveal that, you know, Ultraman was actually an experiment or whatever, a lot of people were expecting him to be Henry Cavill, and I'm glad that it wasn't, because that wouldn't be fair to David. Everybody going to be comparing his performance, but you're going to put the guy you're being compared to in the film. It doesn't seem fair to him. That would get a little bit too Deadpool-y for the Superman, I believe. So yeah, I wouldn't have been cool with that decision. And I don't mind them merging those two characters. Yeah, maybe there was a little bit of waste opportunity to do stuff with Bizarro, but there's so many more characters in the Superman lore, a lot that have never been on the screen that I could see James Gunn taking and doing stuff, awesome stuff with. So in a way, it's like, okay, sure, I'll sacrifice Bizarro if you give me something else with somebody else that I don't even know. I am super excited for what's coming next. There are 2 post-credit scenes in this film. Those 2 are kind of like nothings, but within, I guess what you want to call the film, like before the credits roll, there's a big reveal. Again, spoiler alert. And also, I like that he kept that in the movie, like a big reveal to be shown as a post-credit scene. You know people are going to leave. So leaving the big reveal before the credits roll is also really smart. And that big reveal is that Kara Zor-El at the end shows up, and we finally see Millie Alcock in the suit in all her glory and everything, and she shows up looking for Krypto because actually that's her dog, which makes a ton of sense because he's wild, and so is she, because she seems like a mess. This version of Kara is like a party girl who goes to different planets to get white girl wasted, and I was not expecting her to be that type of character whatsoever. And this little glimpse of her really made me excited for her solo movie, because I'm thinking they're going to put her in situations where she has to shape up and mature to either save Superman, or really what I'm thinking is that she's going to have to save Krypto. I don't think she's going to save Superman. I think people would be pissed if she has to save Superman. But if she has to go somewhere to different planets or whatever to save Krypto, that makes more sense. And I mean, Superman went apeshit for Krypto, and it's not really his dog. So what would Kara do to save Krypto? We all love Krypto. If you don't love Krypto, not that Krypto. Krypto, the dog. You'd be down for that movie. But her being a party girl just gives her more dimension, gives her something to overcome, and simply makes the character interesting. So in that regard, I really can't wait for next year to see what that happens. And what I'm most excited for is how he deals with Lobo. I don't know if it's been official that he cast Momoa as Lobo yet, but I don't know. I want to see what he does with Lobo. I want to see Lobo on screen. What I would do with Lobo, I would make him the antagonist of the second Superman movie. He shows up to Earth and he has to, he's Superman's got a bounty on his head or something, and they fight. And then at the end, they're like, okay, they end up being buds. You know, not buds, but get to an understanding, find some common ground where like, he's like, okay, I'm not going to kill you, but let's go kill the people who put the bounty on you type shit. They end on good terms. And then Lobo f***s off to go to bounties. And we cut to Lobo's solo movie where he's doing a bounty. And then you would bring him back for like a Justice League movie. He's not a member of the Justice League, but he's like, oh, Superman would be like, I know somebody, I know a guy, and it's him type deal. After you do, you know, your Batman, your Wonder Woman, your whatever movies 10 years from now, however long it takes. That's what I would do with Lobo. So before you get the Justice League movie, you would be getting him as a bad guy in another Superman movie, and then him in his solo movie before you see him in the thing, you know, and not just throw them all together randomly in a movie before them really knowing each other and not exploring the relationships between each other and just throwing it into a big old mess. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. But that's what I would do. Let me know what you do down in the comments, along with your thoughts on this Superman movie. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What are you excited about moving forward in the DC universe or DC world, whatever we're calling it? Any and all thoughts, let them fly down in the comments. And if you made it this far, it's probably because you enjoyed this video. So let me know by dropping a like and subscribing to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to always and forever, you do you.